Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening. Leading the news tonight, the state's road toll has risen after a cyclist was killed in a crash at Kingston Beach this morning. Investigators are working to determine the cause, including whether a section of road undergoing upgrades was a factor.
An early morning raid turning to tragedy in Kingston. Emergency services rushing to Osborne Esplanade around 7 a.m. after reports of a crash between an SUV and cyclist. Police say the rider was downhill prior to the accident.
That cyclist separated from his bike and unfortunately collided with the front of a motor vehicle that was travelling in the opposite direction.
The cyclist, a man in his 40s, died at the scene. The driver was uninjured, but was taken to the Royal Hobart Hospital as a precaution. Officers say the stretch of road was not one of concern.
We have not seen any heightened incidents of crashes with bikes or cyclists or cars in recent times.
Drones surveyed the scene, with speed, alcohol and drugs ruled out as a factor. The incident taking place near a section of road undergoing repairs. Workplace safety officers among those inspecting the site.
We can't determine if that was a cause. WorkSafe Tasmania has attended the scene and they'll undertake an assessment of the area to support their investigations.
This section of the Esplanade was closed for several hours this morning as investigators tried to piece together the circumstances surrounding the crash. Police once again reminding drivers and cyclists to always be alert when using the road.
It is everyone's responsibility to travel as safely as they can. It is everyone's responsibility to assess any risk factors.
Anyone who witnessed the crash is asked to contact police. John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
The 68-year-old man has been extradited to Tasmania to face a string of assault charges. The man arrived on a flight from Victoria late this afternoon. He's wanted by police following a report from the Royal Commission into Institutional Responses to Child Sexual Abuse. The man has been charged with 10 counts of indecent assault and will appear in the Hobart Magistrates Court tomorrow. Tasmania is shaping up to be a key election battleground as Scott Morrison and Anthony Albanese tour the state's marginal seats. The PM today announcing a mass injection of funding into Antarctica to boost the region's strategic and scientific capabilities.
Flanked by his Lions candidate, Scott Morrison had his eyes on Antarctica.
The same cost as by Chinese crap. Oh, right.
The PM pledging $800 million to strengthen Australia's Antarctic interests as the Commonwealth boosts its strategic capabilities through drone fleets and autonomous machinery to map inaccessible areas never reached before.
There are others who have different objectives to us. And we need to make sure, not just for Australia's interests, but for the world's interests, that we protect this incredible environment.
A report by the country's Strategic Policy Institute found Australia would lose influence in the region to China and other nations if it failed to build a paved runway that operates year-round. But the Environment Minister says that wouldn't stack up.
What does stack up strategically is the investment that we're making, which allows us to extend our reach into the 42% of Antarctica that we're stewards over, allows us to develop capabilities that we haven't had before.
There are calls for future investment in the Hobart International Airport for it to remain a key gateway to the region.
We have growing use of the airport, growing pressure on our infrastructure, and we see the next phase of investment in the airport as really key to being able to build our capability for that.
The government says 685 jobs will be created through additional investment, but the Greens aren't buying it.
Do you trust a government that's swinging into Tasmania a month or two before an election, promising hundreds or thousands of jobs in Antarctic science and in Antarctic operations, when they've spent the last 9 years defunding these scientific programs?
Opposition leader Anthony Albanese is also in Tasmania spruiking Labor's federal candidates. Now is a critical time for both leaders to gain ground in Tasmania's most marginal seats and win over voters ahead of the election.
To make sure that Bass returns to the Labor fold It is where it belongs.
The Labor Party pledging to deliver an alternative government as the country transitions out of COVID. The opposition leader will continue his tour of Tasmania tomorrow. Ainsley Kosh, 7 Tasmania News.
Mandatory mask wearing will remain in Tasmania for now, despite other states moving to scrap their use. Victoria has announced it will begin winding back restrictions from Friday night, while Queensland will ditch indoor masks from March 4. The Tasmanian government insists the mask mandate is still crucial to managing outbreaks here.
Having masks still as part of our response to COVID is a way of mitigating against spikes and runaway infections in our communities.
COVID case numbers rose sharply here today with 820 new infections recorded. Firefighting crews have scrambled to prevent a bushfire from damaging homes at Lewisham this afternoon. The blaze began on Lewisham's Scenic Drive just after 1:30, with the flames coming within metres of some properties. 9 trucks and 3 helicopters worked through the afternoon with around 8 hectares of grassland burned. A smoke alert remains in place for the area, with crews working into the evening to strengthen containment lines. Devonport Oval has been locked in to host the AFL's game for Hillcrest between Hawthorn and Richmond. Emotions from December's Jumping Castle tragedy remain raw, but there's hope the history-making fixture will help heal a hurting community.
It's still cricket season, but the pitch has already switched to the winter code, thanks to the goodwill of the Devonport Cricket Club, making sure the AFL showpiece can go ahead.
All our teams are playing away games at the moment. We're happy to support that because it's such a worthy cause, this.
After weeks of speculation, Devonport Oval was today ticked off as the host on the coast. The clash will raise money for those affected by the Hillcrest tragedy and provide a morale boost as teachers, parents and students return to school.
This will be a great opportunity for us to come together as a community to acknowledge what's happened, to support those families.
Hosting 2 teams more accustomed to the MCG creates a mammoth logistical challenge, needing plenty of volunteers.
You'd be surprised how many people would have to it takes to run an AFL game. We're not quite used to doing that, but we got to come up to speed pretty well.
The Devonport Footy Club's corporate box will become Richmond HQ, with Damien Hardwick set to give orders from inside, while the Devonport Athletic Club will house the Hawks and new coach Sam Mitchell. Funnily enough, the same 2 clubs played a pre-season game here 2 decades ago, back in the days of Shane Crawford and Matthew Knights. While there will be plenty of ribbing between the 2 rivals, uniting a shattered community remains at the game's core.
It was an absolute tragedy, and myself personally had a mate who was affected by it. I think it's a great thing just to tell these people, these families, that we're still thinking of them and still caring, and I'm sure the North West Coast will come out in full support.
Tickets go on sale tomorrow for the March 5 clash. Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
The University of Tasmania's new $23 million library has opened. The multi-storey building houses extensive digital and print resources, along with classrooms and cultural areas. More than 150 people gave input into the final design, which emphasises local timber. The facility is also open to the general public.
This is about access to library and cultural facilities for the whole community. Anyone who wants to be able to access it, it's here for you.
The library forms part of Launceston's $500 million city deal. A Westbury farmer has been left devastated after 8 cows were stolen from her paddock. Dimity Hurst says she and her family are only just getting back on their feet after a decade of financial pain.
Tending to her Jersey heifers is not a job, but a passion for Dimity Hurst. Now left gutted after realising she only had 34 out of the 42 calves she usually hand rears in her paddock.
I think the worst bit of it is how violated that you feel, that someone felt entitled enough to come onto your property with a trailer or a horse box, we're imagining, and just take your livestock.
Dimity believes it was a targeted theft, with the Jersey calves a rarity.
They would stand out, there's no doubt about it. You can't just make these sort of cattle disappear because they're actually quite rare. There's not a lot of people that breed the purebreds.
The animals are worth more than $10,000 in total, money especially needed by the family after facing financial hardship and a battle with the banks at the Royal Commission into the industry.
That was a pretty tough time for us, and we're just finding our feet again and finishing off our compensation with ANZ. So we're looking forward to making a fresh start and getting our lives back.
Police are investigating the matter, but the Hearsts are calling on the person responsible to return the calves to the paddock, no questions asked. The family is also hoping social media will help locate them. A Facebook post has been shared to tens of thousands of people, with Tasmanians urged to be on the lookout for the rare breed. Elizabeth O'Neill, 7 Tasmania News.
Tasmanians can snap up cheap flights interstate for just $22. The Jetstar deal has been welcomed by industry as a way to boost the tourism sector as it rebounds from COVID.
So getting people, back out into the world, travelling around, coming to Tasmania, and of course we'll see with international borders opening, more people coming from overseas countries.
But Tasmanians will need to be quick. The sale ends at midnight. With face masks now an everyday accessory in the fight against COVID-19, Tasmanians are being urged to think about their impacts on the environment. Local wildlife experts say we need to reconsider how we dispose of them because of the risk to our animals and birds.
It's an environmental consequence no one saw coming. Tasmania's innocent wildlife set to become the unlikely victims of the pandemic.
Once we open our eyes and actually look around, you'll just see that everywhere there are masks, and it's of course going to be a really big issue for wildlife.
Strangled by the strings or left helpless following naive consumption, Bunurong Wildlife Sanctuary is hoping to prevent an influx of injured animals through its doors.
We would much rather see an animal not come through our gates than have to fix it after it's had an issue with a mask or anything else.
Also eager to tackle the issue now, saying it requires immediate action before it's too late.
We can nip this issue in the bud as quick as we can and make sure this doesn't become something that we're talking about in 2 years' time, listing hundreds of animals that have been affected by masks.
Critical care manager Melissa Gard says reports are emerging from interstate about the damage being done.
What happens is the animal, they get tangled up and then they move around and it gets more tangled and it just gets tighter and tighter.
Sanctuary keepers are reminding Tasmanians it's up to all of us to play our part, encouraging locals to snip their masks and dispose of them correctly.
In these circumstances, when an animal does become entangled, it is literally one piece of rubbish that is the death sentence that we're talking about here. So you picking up that one mask could literally save a life.
Brianna Boylan, 7 Tasmania News.
A new report claims the endangered swift parrot could be saved from the threat of extinction by protecting just 7% of Tasmania's forests from logging. The report by the Tree Projects, BirdLife Tasmania and the Wilderness Society says current policies are failing and calls on the state government to reduce logging quotas. It's estimated there are only 750 swift parrots left in the wild.
Tasmania has made its debut in the Bowls Premier League. Commonwealth Games gold medalist Rebecca Van Ash led the Tridents to a comeback win against the Melbourne Pulse this afternoon. After losing ground early on, Tasmania fought back for a tense finish. Melbourne could have kept the game rolling if they knocked away the Jack at the death.
Are going to come up short. This is very close, but not close enough.
Just missed.
A dream debut for the Tasmania Tridents.
We're pumped to be out here and to chalk up a win the first time we're out in the TV rink. It's just so exciting.
Tasmania currently has 2 wins from 7 games.
Good evening. A cloudy day about the north and east of the state today, mainly sunny elsewhere. Launceston 24, which was the high, Hobart 20, Burnie 19 and Devonport 22, tying in nicely with today's date. Ooze 23 today, Grove and Flinders Island 22, 21 on King Island, also at Smithton, Strawn and the Friendly Beaches. Lowhead 20, 19 for Maria Island and St Helens and 15 at Lyawini. That patchy low-level cloud about the north and northeast of the state is seen here, also some about the southwestern mountain ranges, clear elsewhere. A high is centred just to the east of Tasmania and a cold front is approaching the west. On the mainland, a surface trough over inland New South Wales and Queensland is resulting in convective cloud and thunderstorm activity. Further thunderstorm activity is evident around the top end. Tomorrow, the high pressure system moves over New Zealand and a weak trough extends over Tasmania. The cold front continues to track toward the state and a ridge extends from a high pressure system to the southwest of WA. Surface troughs remain over mainland Australia. North to northeasterly winds 10 to 20 knots, reaching up to 20 to 30 knots in the east and tending northwesterly about the west in the evening, seas 1 to 2.5 metres. There is a strong wind warning forecast for Storm Bay, the lower east coast and the southeast coast. A partly cloudy day ahead for Hobart and Bothwell tomorrow, 28 degrees, 29 for Kingston. A possible shower for Launceston, 27. Devonport sticking to those 22s, a possible shower. And Cressy, a shower or two, 25. Burnie, cloudy, 21. 26 at Strawn, partly cloudy. A mostly sunny day ahead for Curry, 25. St Helens, 23, a shower or two there. Partly cloudy at Swansea, 26. And Orford, partly cloudy, becoming windy, 25. The UV, very high 9s and sunset, 8:06 tomorrow evening. Showers on Thursday, more frequent about the northeast and mostly clearing from the west by early afternoon. Possible thunderstorms about northeastern and central areas in the afternoon. Friday, showers about the north and upper east, possible showers elsewhere. And showers about the upper east on Saturday with possible showers about the rest of the east and central west, fine otherwise. 35 in Perth tomorrow, mostly sunny. Adelaide sunny, 32. A humid day in Melbourne, 32 degrees. And Sydney, 28 with showers. And currently in Hobart, it's sunny and 19. Launceston, partly cloudy, 21. Devonport, partly cloudy, 19. And today is Tuesday, the 22nd of the 2nd, 2022. And many say it's a lucky day. Have you had much luck today, Kim?
Not today, but it might be a good omen for the Cup tomorrow. Thanks, Carmen. That is all your news for now. Thanks for your company. Good night.